Hello guys, it's me again, and welcome to a new sort of video for me. This is my top 10 favorite Pokemon of all time. So yeah, have fun with it. Usually I only do draft stuff, so this is a bit different. So yeah, have fun with it, I would say. But before we get into my top 10 list, I want to start off with an honorable mention, basically number 11 of all time, and that is Ambipom. I know it's a weird pick. Like, people do not like Ambipom for some reason. I've seen way too many YouTube lists where Ambipom is like on people's worst Pokemon lists of all time, their least favorite normal type, their least favorite Gen 4 Pokemon, and I think that's an absolute criminal opinion. I love this Pokemon. The only weird thing is I can't really explain why I love it so much. Like, I've always just really liked the design. It looks really fun. Like, I think it just looks like it has a fun personality. It seems playful, but it can also be strong in battle, like we have seen in the anime. It can do gym battles like it did with Ash while it was still an Apom, but it can also do contests like it did with Dawn. So yeah, I've always really liked Amipom's design. I'm quite a sucker for monkey Pokemon, I've realized over the past few years. Not the elemental monkeys from Unova, obviously, but all the other Pokemon that are monkeys I really like their Manatee, Rillaboom. Also not talking about one specifically because it is going to show up on my list. So yeah, Airbomb is just one of those Pokemon I really damn enjoy, and I think it deserves more love, which is why I did always want to mention it on my top 10 favorite list, even though it barely misses out being 11th overall. My real list starts now, and in 10th place, that is Leafeon. Leafeon, my beloved. It's my favorite evolution. It always has been. I'm a Gen 4 person. I started with Pokemon Pearl, so yeah, I've always had a soft spot for Sinnoh Pokemon with Aipom and as well with this Leafeon. I think it looks very damn majestic. It's so damn cool. It is. I've always been a sucker for grass types as well, apparently, which I've never really realized until like the last year or so that I really like grass type Pokemon. So Leafeon as a grass evolution can't really go wrong. Is it a dog? Is it a cat? I don't know. I love both, so it's just the perfect grass type for me. Not my favorite, but my favorite non-starter grass type as a slight spoiler. Yeah, it's also really fun to use in battle. In game, like versus the CPUs, it's not as great because it has a really bad move pool. Like it only learns Leaf Blade at like level 70 or something like that. But I think they fixed that in the later generations, like from generation onwards. So I should use it once in a playthrough again for my Gen 8 or Gen 9 because it is in the game. But I really love this Pokemon. I love its design. I love how cool but also cute it looks and how cuddly it is. This Pokemon is just really damn awesome, and it definitely warrants a spot on my top 10 favorite lists. And 10th place. In 9th place, though, is Heracross. This is my favorite Johto Pokemon, it's my favorite bug type. It's so cool. Like, I know I said I started with Gen 4 on the games, which is true, but I have been watching the Pokemon anime since like Gen 1. But I really remember the Gen 2 arc where Heracross I think, got really early and had a really cool dynamic with Bulbasaur, which was one of my favorite Kanto Pokemon. So I've always loved Heracross. I remember when I was a kid, me and my younger brother, we both loved Heracross and we both desperately wanted a plushie of it. And my mom searched so hard. You could say she searched far and wide, but I'm not making the joke. Although I think I just did. But yeah, my mom never really found the Heracross plushie, so we both were kind of distraught about that. But we've always had a soft spot for it, and then obviously, with me starting in Gen 4 with Pokemon Pearl, my second game was Pokemon Heart Gold, where we could catch a Heracross really early, and I have really fond memories of using Heracross in like my first real Pokemon years on the Nintendo DS, so it's really fun. It's so damn strong. Like, even in game, it just destroys, but online as well. With the Gen 9 thingy, and it being able to Terra normal facade things into Oblivion, it's so fun. You've seen me use this Pokemon in GWA with Terra, you've seen me use it in MDL without Terra. I love this Pokemon, and I will always love this Pokemon. It usually sits around like 10th place in my top 10 favorite list. At the moment, it's 9th. It could go higher, it could go lower, but I think 9th is quite a fair spot for it, and I will always have a soft spot for this Pokemon. Like, how can you make a bug Pokemon look cute but still cool at the same time? This thing is ridiculously cool, and I will always love it. My 8th spot goes to Arcanine. Arcanine is, in my opinion, objectively, which is so weird to say, in my opinion, objectively, but I think this is the best Pokemon ever made. I don't see how anyone can hate this Pokemon. Design wise, it's so awesome. Like everyone knows, it was originally meant to be a legendary Pokemon, and you can, I think, see that in its design. It's really cool, but it's a dog Pokemon, so it's cute by default. It's really cuddly. Like, who wouldn't like an Arcanine in real life? This Pokemon is so awesome. It's strong as well, like I said, in game, but also online. It's really easy to access, with Growlite being in many games because this is a fan favorite Pokemon. And it's always a really good pickup, in my opinion, as your fire type if you didn't take the fire type starter. And yeah, I don't think I have to say a lot more about Arcanine other than this Pokemon is awesome, and I think everyone agrees with me. And if they don't agree with me, their opinion is just objectively wrong. And yeah, I'm standing by that statement. Arcanine, my beloved, in 8th place. Now is where the list gets a little bit more weird. In 7th place, I have Floatzel. So, Floatzel is really cool. I think most people agree with that. But I don't think most people have it this high up in their list. So, some context for that. Like I mentioned, I started with Pokemon Pearl, but I was a really dumb kid. Like, I'm from Belgium, so we never had the games in Dutch, which is our language. So, we always had to play in English, which isn't really an issue. Like, my English is fine. It was fine as a kid as well. But there were some translation issues on my part. Like, I remember I started off with Chimchar to give you a clue. So I had some trouble with the first gym, obviously being a fire type, so I had to grind up to become a Inferno and then beat the gym. And then I had to go to Feroma Town, if you can remember. And for that, you need Rock Smash. So in Dutch, if you want to teach a Pokemon a move like Rock Smash, like the HM, you have to give it the move. Like that's the literal translation in Dutch. You have to give it a move. So I always tried giving my Inferno Rock Smash, and that always failed. Obviously, we know now that you have to use the HM to teach your Pokemon the move, but I didn't know that. So I was stuck a really long time because I thought my Inferno was too weak. So it went to like level 30 or something. Until my stepsister suddenly told me that you needed to use the HM and then I could progress. So I started to progress with my ridiculously high level Inferno, and then I found a Wild Weasel, which was a really cool Pokemon, and I wanted to add it to the team. But it was so underleveled compared to my ridiculously overleveled Inferno. So I had to switch train the Weasel, and then we got the EXP share in Eternal City, and I just gave the EXP share to my Weasel to let it catch up. All good and well, but I kind of forgot you could take the EXP share back. I didn't know how to do that. So my Weasel was stuck with the EXP share for the entire game. I didn't know what repels were, so I fought every wild Pokemon. I fought every damn trainer battle. With my Weasel then becoming a Floatzel with the EXP share. And then I got stuck in Victory Road for a few months with the strength puzzle, because yes, I was one of those kids as well. So when I finally beat Cynthia for the first time, I had a level 96 Floatzel because it had the EXP share for the entire game, which was hilarious. So this Floatzel is the first Pokemon I ever got to level 100. It's the Pokemon I beat the Sinnoh League with, so it's the first Pokemon that I used to enter the Hall of Fame. I've always had a soft spot for it, and yeah, that story is just always sticking with me. So I will always love Floatzel. It was higher before I started playing Pokemon competitively. Like it kind of fell down the list after trying to use it online and it not being that great. Although in Gen 9 it got buffed or boosted really well with Wave Crash being there, and it's really fun. So yeah, maybe I should use it again in a draft league. If it could Terra, it would be really nice. But this Pokemon has always been one of my favorites, and I will always have a soft spot for it as my first Pokemon I ever got to level 100. Alright, my sixth favorite Pokemon is the only pseudo legendary on the list, my favorite pseudo legendary, and that is Dragapult. I mean, in my opinion, it's the coolest pseudo legendary, obviously, because it's in my favorite list. But this Pokemon looks so cool. The Dreepy being in its head and then shoots it out to just attack its opponent is really funny to me. It's also really cool. Dragon Ghost is really damn strong offensively. We've only seen it with Giratina, so this is the first Dragon Ghost type that isn't a legendary, which is awesome in my opinion. Yeah, I have always loved Dragapult. I didn't really know how to catch it in Gen 8 as a Dreep. I didn't know where to find it. But then I looked it up and I trained one up for the Battle Tower, which I did on my free time while I was studying for exams and I needed to take a break. I would go into the Battle Tower and I would always say, like, if I lose a battle in the Battle Tower, I will just end my break and I'll start studying again. But with me having trained the Dragapult for the Battle Tower and actually EV train it, I was impossible to beat for the CPU, which isn't that much of an achievement, obviously. But it's really funny that I took a study break and I think I had like a 300 win streak in the Battle Tower. And my study break lasted for way too many hours. Still passed an exam though. But it's fun to talk about. Like one of my friends in college was also a Pokemon player and he always loved that story as well. So Dragapult will always have a soft spot for me. And I started using it online in Gen 8 OU. And I think I peaked like top 200 on the ladder. I was like 2,100, something ridiculous like that. And I used it in Gen 9 draft, won my league with it. So I love this Pokemon design wise. I love it competitively. I love it in game. It's one of the coolest Pokemon ever, and it definitely deserves the sixth spot overall on my favorite list. My fifth place overall is also a Gen 8 Pokemon, and that's Corviknight. Yeah, so fun story for Gen 8, when Sword and Shield got released, I tried to avoid every single spoiler on the internet and even the official Pokemon directs where they announced Pokemon, but I couldn't keep the Corviknight from spoiling me. So I saw Corviknight's design, and I thought, based on its design, that it was a legendary Pokemon because it looks so cool. It always reminded me of the Red Eyes Black Dragon from Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know if I'm the only one. Like it's red and it's dark, it's black and it has red eyes. I know it's not a dragon; it's a bird, but it always reminded me. So let me know if you agree with that. But yeah, so I thought this was a legendary Pokemon, and then we got Sword and Shield, we started playing it. And I saw one in the wild area, and I was like, actually, let me see if I can find this Pokemon in the wild. And it was like two places down from Rookidee in the Pokedex, and then I knew, oh, so Rookidee is evolving into this Pokemon, and I immediately started training my Rookidee so I could have a Corviknight the earliest I could. And I basically used Corviknight as my only Pokemon in the playthrough. It being a steel fighting type is not steel fighting, steel flying type is really useful. Like we've only had that with Skarmory, who I also love design wise and online and in game. But Corviknight is just so much cooler in my opinion. It's also better competitive, which I think is really funny. Yeah, so this is the Pokemon that I fell in love with design wise. It's one of the only Pokemon that I remember looking at and being like, yes, this is the Pokemon for me. It's not even one of those Pokemon with a story like Flozel, for example, has. It's one of those that just has an incredible design that I fell in love with, and then I started using it, and it even got better because it's good online, it's good in game. Was also on that Battle Tower team with Dragapult, so I was a tryhard. Also on my Gen 8 Elo team for OU, so yeah, it's one of those Pokemon that I have used quite a few times, quite a lot, even though it's quite a recent Pokemon still, only being from I think 2019 when Sword and Shield released. But every time I see a Rookidee or a Corvisquire or a Corviknight, I try to pick it up. I use it in my Gen 9 playthrough as well, and this Pokemon will always be one of my all-time favorites. And I think it can only go up in all honesty. Like the longer it exists, the more nostalgic I'm going to get for this Pokemon, and I think it will rise up in the ranks. But for now, it sits in fifth overall, which I think is a fair spot for it. My fourth favorite Pokemon of all time is Gliscor. Man, Gliscor, you are also one of those Pokemon with this really annoying backstory from my Gen 4 Pokemon Pearl days when I was a kid. So, I played Pokemon Pearl, but not when it first came out. I think I played it in 2009 because I got it in FIFA 09, I remember. So I think I got Pokemon Pearl around the time Pokemon Platinum came out. So like I mentioned, I was a stupid kid. I was stuck quite a few times, and my stepsister had to help me out because she also played Pokemon and she had Pokemon Platinum. And I remember when she helped me out, I was going through the Eternal Forest and stuff like that, and I found a wild Misdreavus, which she really loved. But in Pokemon Platinum, Miss Drevis isn't available. And she was a bit further ahead of me because she wasn't stupid like I was. And she found the Gligar underneath the cycling routes. And I wanted that Gligar, and she wanted my Miss Drevis. So we just traded, which I think is really fun to look back on, like me us trading Pokemon and me having a Pokemon from her side and her having a Pokemon from my side. But we also were both a little bit idiots and we didn't know how to evolve. Like, Miss Drevis evolving with the Duskstone is, in my opinion, a lot easier than Gligar evolving with the Razorfang at night. But still. So, she ran through the game with her Miss Drevis the entire time without it evolving. And I ran through the game with my Gligar the entire time without it evolving. And, like, I thought it was just too me because it wasn't a Pokemon I originally caught. So I thought it was like one of those friendship evolutions, maybe because I knew about those. And I remember having my Gligar to level 80 and it's still not evolving. And then I just gave up and I looked on the internet how to evolve it and I had to find the Razorfang and then level it up at night. Which took a ridiculous long amount of time as well because I was level 80 and I had to grind it up on like level 40s in the wild, which was hilarious. But I finally got my Gliscor. And it's a story that's always stuck with me. But it's also one of those designs, like Corviknight, that I always fell in love with. Like, who is going to train a Gligar to level 80 just because he wants a Gliscor for its usage? Like, I love this design, I love this Pokemon. And then I started using it. Like, in-game it's good, with Hyper Cutter, and obviously having an Earthquake spamming Pokemon is awesome. But competitively, man, Gliscor. If you have watched my draft videos, I have used Gliscor probably in half my games on my YouTube channel. I absolutely adore this Pokemon. It's, I think, the Pokemon most of my draft friends associate with me. This is my Pokemon. And yeah, I will always love this Pokemon. I will always be nostalgic for it. I will always love it. And I hope it keeps coming back in future games and it not being dexted like it was in Gen 8 because that was awful. I'm so happy it's back with the Gen 9 DLC. And yeah, the more Gliscor, the better. Although that may be a controversial opinion. But I don't care. So yeah, Glasgow in fourth, just missing out on a podium spot. And now for third place, I have Sceptile. Sceptile, man. I'm pretty sure if I started off Pokemon, if I started playing Pokemon with Gen 3, like I kind of wanted to, this would have been my favorite Pokemon. Like when I was a kid, I loved Pokemon, and so I'm from 1998. So I think when Hoenn came around, I was like 5 years old. I think that's correct timeline wise. So yeah, when I was in first grade, you have your Catholic celebration. I don't know how it's called in English. In Dutch, it's called your first communie. So yeah, when we had that, we got like a lot of gifts from my mom, from my grandma, and I only wanted Pokemon Wops. I don't know if you know what those things are. So were like, so you have Flippos that were inside, like bags of crisps, bags of chips. But you also had Pokemon Wops, and those were like those squared type things that you had to stack upon each other, and then you have to throw in it like it was a frisbee, and then you have to knock down your tower, for example. Blah 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 blah. It's a long story. Like Google it, please. Maybe I will find a picture of it, but I probably don't. Anyway, I'm waffling. So I wanted a lot of those Wops because they were like the Hoenn things, and my favorite Pokemon at the time were Trico and Sceptile. I had a Trico plushie. I still have the Trico plushie. It's older than my youngest brother, which is hilarious. And I remember I wanted a Sceptile. So I think my mom and my grandma spent like 100 euros on Wops only. For reference, I think it was like €1 for 3 Wops. So I think I got like 300 Wops. And I got a Sceptile in like one of my last packs, which was awesome. And yeah, this Pokemon is so awesome. I remember watching the anime with Ash's Trico, then evolving into Grova, and finally evolving into Sceptile, and it being his coolest Pokemon in the anime. Then it beat Darkrai in Gen 4. Man, this Pokemon is so cool. I wish I had more nostalgic attachment from using it, because I never played the original Gen 3 game, so my first time I actually used this Sceptile was when the Hoenn remakes came out in like 2014. I was 16 at that time, so I'm not that nostalgic to it from gameplay wise, otherwise it would have definitely been my favorite, I think. But I think third place is really nice for it. Like, I don't really have a personal story with it from gameplay. I only have a personal story from watching the anime and from like playing other Pokemon related things that weren't video games. but it's still an awesome Pokemon. And yeah, like other Pokemon on my list, I have used it in Draft League before. I won my second low tier season with it, where I got MVP, and it was so damn good. Like, it swept so many teams. I'm very nostalgic to this Sceptile. And yeah, it being in third is definitely not something that I expected when I was a kid. But the two Pokemon above it are just Pokemon with a lot more nostalgic value for me. So yeah. That being said, my second favorite Pokemon is Samurott. Shiny Samurott, to be specific. I don't get the Samurott hate. I really don't. Like, I remember when the Gen 5 games came out, it was at a time where the Pokemon games didn't release simultaneously worldwide. So I think they released in Japan around like May time, but in Europe it was only going to be in November. So we got the promotional stuff when it came out, so we saw the starters, we saw Snivy, Tepig, and Oshawott. And I was Team Snivy. I thought Snivy looked really cool. I really liked Snivy. And I was going to pick Snivy. And I remember when the games were almost coming out in Europe, I watched a YouTube video where they were showing the Pokedex in order. So you started off with Snivy, and then it showed it Servine, Superior, stuff like that, and just went in order. So I saw the evolutions for the first time, and I saw Snivy evolve into Servine, and I was like, oh yeah, cool, gradual progression. Then it evolved to Superior, and I was sold. I loved Superior. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely choosing Snivy. This whole evolutionary line is awesome, like almost on par with the Trico line. I love it. Then I saw Tepig evolve, was disappointing. And then I saw Oshawott, and I was like, yeah, I don't really care. And then I saw Duot, and I was like, yeah, it's cool. But then I saw Samurott, and I never even thought back about choosing Snivy. I saw Samurott's design, and I was sold. I adore this Pokemon design. It looks so cool, in my opinion. So when the games eventually came out, I chose Oshawott, but I got really lucky, and I actually got a first encounter shiny Oshawott without even trying. So my first Gen 5 playthrough was with a shiny Oshawott that then evolved into a shiny Duot and then a shiny Samurott. And it was the MVP of my team. I still have that Samurott. So that's a Pokemon from 2010 that I still have. It's the only Pokemon I still kept around. I don't even have my original team anymore. I don't have that Floatzel anymore that I mentioned when I was talking about Floatzel. I still have this Samurott. It's my favorite shiny, obviously, because it's my first shiny as well. Like, I didn't find the shiny in Pokemon Pearl or in Pokemon Heart Gold. I don't count the Gyarados. I probably killed the Gyarados as well. So this is my first legit shiny Pokemon. It being my starter is so awesome, and it being a Pokemon I absolutely adore is incredible. It's a shame it sucks competitively. It really is. The Hisuian one is good, and it is cool, but it doesn't come close to the regular one for me, in my opinion. And yeah, to even make it better, when we started GWA low tier, I basically pushed for that because I wanted to use Samurott to make it MVP. And I actually did make it MVP, and I even won the season. So yeah, I won a low tier season with Samurott, but then got 14 kills and only dying once. So I even made it shine competitively, which is awesome. I love this Pokemon. If people don't associate me with Gliscor, they definitely associate me with Samurott. Those are like my two draft Pokemon that people think of when they think of me, which I think is really cool. It's one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. And I think if I wasn't nostalgic to my first Pokemon, to my first favorite overall, I think Samurott would have been my favorite. Samurott or Sceptile, probably Samurott because it's higher than Sceptile. But yeah, Samurott. If you hate on Samurott, you just have bad taste. I will never understand the Gen 5 starter hate. Like, sure, Emboar is awful, but Superior and Samurott are so cool. I choose Superior in, I think, every generation other than Gen 1, 3, or 4. And obviously Gen 5 it's Samurott. And I would choose Samurott in every generation other than Generation 4. Because in Generation 4, where I started, is my first ever Pokemon, and it's also my favorite of all time. And that is Infernape. Like, who isn't nostalgic to their first ever Pokemon? I love this Pokemon. It's the first one I ever caught. It's the first one I ever trained. It's not the first one I got to level 100 because I was stupid with my Floatzel and its XP share. But it's definitely my favorite Pokemon of all time. It being the main focus of the Gen 4 anime definitely helped. Its character arc, if you want, is so damn cool. Its design is awesome. It was really strong online as well in the early days from like Gen 4. Even in Gen 5 it was semi-decent. And then in Gen 6 when I started watching Draft League, it kind of terrorized Gen 6 and Gen 7 off. Like, I remember A Drive being really good with Infernape, which was awesome. So I've always really loved using Infernape in my playthroughs because it was really good in Sinnoh, obviously. But I've always loved using it online too. It's a shame it wasn't in Gen 8 because I was going to spam it. But then it came back in Gen 9 and I picked it up in draft. I haven't won with Infernape yet, which is kind of a crime. Like, I think I won with every Pokemon on this list. Wait, let me see. No, I didn't win with Aimfom yet because I'm only using it for the first time and I'm in playoffs. I didn't win with Leafeon, I didn't win with Heracross. I won with Arcanine, I won with Dragapult, I won with Gliscor, I won with Sceptile, I won with Samurott. So I'm definitely waffling. I didn't win with all these Pokemon. But yeah, Infernape, I also used it in a low tier season, which was kind of crazy looking back at it. I got it to 25 kills. I think the second kill leader overall got 13 kills, so I almost doubled the kills. I lost in semifinals though, which was kind of sad. But yeah, Infernape, it's always going to be my favorite Pokemon because of the nostalgic value. Like, in a funny way though, I'm more attached to Samurott because it's one of those Pokemon that you have to defend, if you know what I mean. Like, Infernape is universally loved, rightfully so. And Samurott, for some reason, isn't, so I always have to defend Samurott, which probably makes me more attached to it than Infernape. But it feels wrong saying Samurott is my favorite. Well, it's definitely Infernape, but like, I would choose Infernape over Samurott any day of the week, I think. So yeah, this is my favorite Pokemon of all time. And I think my list is really damn cool. Like, I have 3 starters, I have a regional bird, I have a pseudo legendary, I have an evolution, and then I have some weird quirky Pokemon like Floatzel, like Ambipom, and then some universally loved like Heracross, like Arcanine, even Gliscor if you don't play competitively, it's quite loved. So yeah. So this is my first non-draft related video. This is my top 10 favorite Pokemon list of all time, and I hope you enjoyed because it's definitely going to be the only video on my YouTube channel that isn't draft related. So yeah, thank you all for watching, everyone, and I will see you when we play draft again. Well, I hope I had you all. Like, I hope you were all wondering why I was talking about my favorite Pokemon. Oh, I'm sorry for this. So yeah, this also fits with my draft analysis for the new QBDL season, which is hilarious. I didn't plan on joining QBDL again because I am very busy IRL. But then the first pick overall just dropped, and they needed a replacement coach. And I have always wanted to use all my favorite Pokemon together in drafts. But like, if you watched my favorite list, that's really hard to do because I love Dragapult, I love Gliscor, and I love Corviknight. And getting those 3 together is really hard. Yeah, like, you need like a really high pick and hope the Dragapult survives when it comes to you, or you need first overall and then hope that Gliscor lasts 2 full rounds, which is not happening most of the time. So yeah, I saw first overall dropped, and I thought this is the chance to maybe get all my favorites together. So I just joined, picking up Dragapult and going for my favorites. And it actually worked. I didn't get sniped a single time, which is so damn fun. So I have all my favorite Pokemon of all time on my draft team. So this video is my top 10 favorites, but also my draft analysis, which is hilarious. As you can see, I also picked up Glaceon, which is not my 12th pick, which is not my 12th favorite Pokemon. But like, my 12th favorite Pokemon is Xerneas, which is in the game. That is Heliolisk, which also isn't in the game. Then it should be Braviary, but I didn't really want to take Braviary when I have Corviknight, when I have Gliscor. And I did want to try a little bit with my team anyway. So yeah, I'm not going to go over the things that all the Pokemon specifically do, because I kind of mentioned that in my favorites list as well. And I've used all these Pokemon before; they're all very obvious. And like, I have multiple draft analysis up on my channel which feature these Pokemon. So yeah, I think you should know what they do. I'll mention why I picked up Glaceon, other than it being the second Sinnoh evolution. So I have the duo of Glaceon and Leafeon, which I think is really cool. My team doesn't switch in on the on ice types. What am I saying? On flying types, other than Corviknight. But Corviknight doesn't want to switch in on like a Kilowattrel, like a Zapdos. So that's kind of scary. And I don't hit flying types for super effective damage, which is really damn annoying. Like, not having a good switch in for like a Brave Bird, for like a Galarian Zapdos, for example. I don't have a good switch in for that. And not being able to hit it super effectively is quite scary, so I wanted an Ice type. or an electric type, which is why I went for Glaceon. It was in my budget, I could Terra it as well. So yeah. I should maybe explain the Terra rules. So we had 20 Terra points, but they came from our overall budget. So we had 120 points overall, and 20 of those we could spend on Terra Pokemon, which were, I think, 10 points and below, but they came with the Terra tags. They were very intricate Terra rules. So to be very precise, on my team, I could Terra Samurott, I could Terra Sceptile, I could Terra Floatzel. Oh no, I couldn't Terra Floatzel because it was Terra banned. So Samurott, Sceptile, Arcanine, Heracross, Leafeon, Egom, and Glaceon all could Terra. But I only had 20 points, so my possible combinations were Heracross, which was 12 points with Terra, with 8 points. So I could do Heracross plus Ambipom, for example. Or I could do Heracross plus Samurott and Leafeon. Or I could do Heracross plus Leafeon and Glaceon. Or I could do Heracross plus Samurott plus Glaceon. But looking at my team, I have only Gliscor and Corviknight as defensive pieces, and both of them being flying types. Like, they don't overlap on weaknesses because of their secondary typing, but both of them being flying types isn't ideal. So I kind of wanted a more defensive Terra captain, so I didn't go for Heracross. I went for Arcanine as my Terra captain. Annoyingly though, it can't Terra normal because the league complex banned that, which is in my opinion annoying because I wanted to Terra normal. I also don't think it should be Terra banned, Terra normal, but like sure, I can get why. Like I've used it with Terra normal, I won the league. Arcanine didn't die a single time, so I guess it makes some sense. Still annoying though. But that doesn't make Arcanine a bad Terra captain, in my opinion. Like I have Terra Walder, Terra Fairy, and Terra Dark on my Arcanine. And Terra Walder and Terra Fairy are there to be a really annoying bulky Pokemon. So it can help Glasgow and Corviknight defensively in some matches with Terra Walder. It can also be my Fairy type, because it's only weak to Steel and Poison, and I destroy Steel types with me being an Arcanine and having Fire type moves. And Poison types do not look good into my team, and I have a Gliscor and a Corviknight. So I think it looks really nice with Terra Fairy, it being my Fairy type, because I don't have a Fairy type, and my favorite list also helps it out. Terra Wilder as my bulky Water, because Samurott and Floatzel are not bulky Waters. And then I have Terra Dark, because I kind of wanted to Ghost Resist and I couldn't be Terra Normal, so I just went for Terra Dark, which at worst comes to a few games, but it's always going to be useful. And yeah, so with Arcanine, I could choose for Arcanine, which was 11 points with Terra, so I had 9 points remaining. I could take Sceptile, but Sceptile costs 9 points with Terra, which I think is way too expensive, especially because I don't have any way to really activate its Burden. Like, sure, with Terra, it's nice on the special side, like a Spec Sweeper, for example, or a special Life Hormone, but it's not the greatest to do that, so I kind of opted to spread my options around. So instead of that, I could have taken Samurott plus Leafeon, or Samurott plus Glaceon, or I could have just went for Arcanine plus Ambipom, and then Glaceon, or Arcanine and Ambipom and Samurott. But I went for Leafeon, because I think Leafeon with Terra is actually really good. I've used it before with Terra on a Sun team, but I think defensively it looks really nice too. With Terra Walder, it's really bulky, and like I mentioned with Arcanine, and it's being Terra Water, they can both check bulky water types. Obviously, Leafeon can do that as a grass type as well. But if I Terra my Leafeon into a water type, it's a lot harder to kill in general. Like, for example, if I have to fight a Palafin, I don't have to Terra my Leafeon into Terra Water. But if the Palafin also has for example, a Galarian Zapdos on its team, then my Leafeon isn't a good check because the Palafin just flip turns into the Galarian Zapdos, and I have to switch out once again. It's annoying. So with Terra Water, I deal a lot better with that. And it being a water type is also nice. So, like, usually when you go bulky water against an offensive water, or bulky water against bulky water, it's a stall fest. But with Leafeon being a grass type, it can actually help against the water types, because I have still my stab leaf rate if I have Terra Watered, which is awesome. So I think it will work. I can also be like a B-Tech Vaporeon, because it can still Wish Pulse as it is an evolution, which is awesome. And then I went for Terra Poison, because it's a good defensive typing, and I don't have a grounded poison type on my favorite list, so I don't want to get T-Spike stacked. And then for my last Terra type, I went for Terra Ground, because it's quite good offensively, Terra Ground. I also really like Terra Fire, but with me having an Infernape and an Arcanine, it wasn't really necessary. And sure, I have a Gliscor, but Gliscor is not going to be an offensive Pokemon on my team. So I think Ground is nice on Leafeon offensively. And then for my last Terra Captain, I went for the Glaceon. is one of the main reasons why I picked it up. Because I want to deal with flying types offensively with me being an ice type. But if I can go to Terra Electric, I can also deal with them defensively. I have the Ball Beam coverage, which is awesome. And then I also went for Waller to, in my opinion, is the best type to be a Calm Mind sweeper, so Glaceon can do that with Calm Mind. It can also be a B-Tech Vaporeon, like Leafeon can. And then I went for Terra Fairy, because it's the best typing in draft in Pokemon, competitively, in my opinion. And yeah, it also helps with Calm Mind, it helps with some coverage moves, which is cool. Like, you're weak to Poison and to Steel, but like I mentioned with Arcanine, Poison and Steel types aren't really that threatening for my team. And I can become a Sylveon with Terra Fairy, I guess. So, yeah. I think my Terra types help my team out defensively. Because if you look at my team, they're my favorite Pokemon. They don't have synergy. Like, if I want to be serious, which I still kind of want to do, I still want to make playoffs, I still want to have my perfect playoff records intact. But if I want to be serious, I am going to need some synergy, and Gliscor and Corviknight are a good defensive type core. Dragonbolt is an incredible Pokemon. So those three together, they can fill some roles. But then I need to support those three Pokemon, and I think that without Terra, my team didn't really do that. Like, Infernape can be really good on my team with those three, so can Heracross. I like Samurott, Sceptile, Ambipom, Floatzel. They're kind of niche Pokemon, but they are good in specific matchups. I like Arcanine and Infernape, they really overlap a lot, but if I can use my Arcanine as a Terra Captain, I can use it defensively. Like, if I run Terra Fairy Arcanine, I have a really good defensive core with Gliscor, Corviknight, and Fairy Arcanine. I can use it offensively too if I don't want to bring Infernape. Heracross can be my breaker, so it doesn't need Terra, although it really appreciates it. I can still Terra it with transactions if I really want to. And then Leafeon is a bad Pokemon without Terra, so it needed Terra a lot more than Samurott did, in my opinion, because Samurott is still a water type. And if I want to Terra my Samurott, I probably Terra it offensively, which is not its best use on this team when I have a Floatzel. Like, if I want an offensive water type, I'll just use Floatzel. So Samurott didn't need Terra, in my opinion. And yeah, I went for Glaceon as my last two. In my opinion, Glaceon is a really good Terra Captain. I've used it in MC, and I think it got like 10 kills. It was second overall in the MVP rankings on my really bad MC team, so yeah. So this video is going to be really long because it was my top 10 favorites, and then it suddenly transitioned into my draft analysis, because why would I make a top 10 favorite list? I'm not a YouTuber, this is my draft analysis, but I'm kind of baiting everyone. So yeah, this is my type chart. Obviously it doesn't look great. My flying resists don't exist other than Corviknight. But with Glaceon being Terra Electric, I can deal with flying types that way, offensively and defensively. I don't really have good psychic resists, but I have a Corviknight which doesn't care about psychics, and I can Terra my Arcanine into a dark type, which is nice. And in my opinion, psychic is just a bad typing, because like offensively, Dragapult can beat it always. I have so much U-turn spam, which is super effective against flying types. Obviously, I have a lot of knockoff users too. Like, I think Gliscor, Infernape, Heracross, Ambipom, Samurott, Leafeon, they all get knockoff, so psychic types, they are not really that worrying for me. I have a rock weakness, but I always have a rock weakness. Yeah. The main issues on my team is that I don't have a grounded poison, or a fairy, or a dark type. But I deal with those with my Terra types. So if I really want to, I can Terra my Pokemon into those typings, which is nice. And funnily enough, I have really good speed tiers, which was not the plan, obviously, because I just don't have my favorites. But my speed tiers look the best they've ever looked, so that's cool. I think my team is very delusional, but I think I can actually cope with my team. Like, I've used all these Pokemon a lot, obviously. I'm comfortable with them. And I think I can actually make them shine. I will have to try my hardest to make some good teams, instead of my Pokemon just being slapped together. But I think I can do it. I'm confident enough in myself and in my Pokemon. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun season. I didn't plan on joining, but I couldn't miss this opportunity to actually use my favorites together for the first time ever, and probably the last time ever, because I don't think I am going to win this season, but I will still try my hardest. Yeah, so thank you all for watching this video. I hope people enjoyed it, my waffling session about my favorites and then my draft analysis. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you're as excited for the season as I am. It's once again going to be a 4-week season, like last QBDL was, but without the crazy Pokemon allowed, without the Zamazenta, Ground, without the Zekrom, without the Fluttermane, without the Kieran Black. So it's going to be a lot more of a normal season for everyone, except for me, because I have a favorites. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you for week 1 next week. Peace.